When it came to women who ruled with an iron fist, here are some that would shock you on how cruel they acted, like Irene of Athens. She ruled between 797 to 802 CE, and the untimely death of her husband caused the throne fell onto her, leaving her solely in charge. And during her regency with her son Constantine, Irene became very influential in government policies. Although she co-ruled with her son for 2 decades, she knew her son was an unpopular emperor, and the empress was an ambitious woman and wanted full control of the Byzantine Empire. With the help of some political allies, Irene led a conspiracy against her own son, but ultimately though the mother and son reconciled, but then again, it wasn't in the end. In 786, the public turned against Constantine after he decided to divorce his wife and marry his mistress instead, and so Irene took advantage of this and once again conspired against her son. In 797, Irene organized a conspiracy in which supporters gouged out her son's eyes, maiming him severely, and he was imprisoned and probably died shortly afterwards. With him out of the way, Irene proclaimed herself as the sole ruler, and Pope Leo III, already seeking to break links with the Byzantine Empire, used Irene's alleged unprecedented status as a female ruler of the Roman Empire to proclaim Charlemagne as Emperor of the Romans on Christmas Day of 800. Under the pretext though that a woman could not rule and so the throne of the Roman Empire was actually vacant, a revolt in 802 overthrew Irene and exiled her. The power-hungry woman remained in exile on the island of Lesbos, where she had to support herself by spinning wool. She remained on the island of Lesbos until she died a year later, and see, this is why you don't get power-hungry and order an execution on your own son by gouging his eyes out. Even if he didn't have many friends, it's not his fault. I mean, Rani of Jhansi, also known as Rani of Lakshmibai, sounds like a total baddie, maybe not to her enemies, as she was a major threat to them with her violent rage to defend. But hey, when people are occupied, resistance is justified, and she led the Great Indian Rebellion in 1857 against the British colonizers and their imperial government. Wait, this is so cool. According to historians, she threw herself into battle with the reins in her teeth and a sword in each hand, and she besieged a fort where she massacred every British man, woman, and child. Yes, it was terrible for her and many of the Indian resistance, but when it came to colonizers occupying indigenous land, not gonna lie, what do you expect? Like every rebellion of indigenous people who had to resort to violence to protect themselves from people taking over their land, it kinda makes sense. And Rani, who had been noted as the Joan of Arc, Joan of Indian Arc, for her leadership and brilliant military tactics on attacking the British forces. Even Sir Hugh Rose, commander of the British Navy, used artillery to disarm the rebellion, but still, even took note of her leadership and commandment, and was really astonished by it. She assumed regency in place of her adopted son, and rallied forces with the help of the Tatia Tope. She died valiantly fighting against the British to her last breath, and not gonna lie, my kind of woman. What was that mean from Cowboy Bebop? I love that kind of woman that can kick my ass. Something like that. I mean, aside of a woman with the right intention and protecting her people, Queen Ranavalona was a bit of the opposite. She was more of a tyrant than a ruler who had the intention to liberate her people. I mean, in reality, the only thing that the people need to be liberated from was from her. She had once ruled Madagascar and had no doubt she was as fierce as she would have done anything for her kingdom when it came to outsiders and people who came to her land by force. And you guessed it, I'm talking about European colonizers. You see, Queen Ranavalona was the first to rule after her husband, King Radama, after he died. During her reign, she got her uncle executed to protect her power, and some records state that she had ended her own mother's life by subjecting her to extreme hunger. She self-proclaimed herself as ruler as a message by the gods, and when she ruled, she had the people's population go from 5 million to half that number. During the 33 years on her reign on the throne, she isolated the island and seized much of its trade and goodwill exchanges with the African people to the west. She also, with her critics, she forced them to eat poisoned chicken skin and vomit it back up. If they survived the ingestion and regurgitated, they also proved that they were loyal to her, and if they died, it proved that they were secretly disloyal, and her deaths were warranted. It took the island nation decades to recover what was lost under her rule, and in her reign had killed and chopped off the heads of French and British missionaries and even boiled Christians of Madagascar alive. She killed her rivals in any way that she could and was just very picky, and considering the population was cut in half, she really did pull a Thanos. And speaking of Thanos, Wu Zetian also tried to do the same, but with her family bloodline. Emperor Wu's rise to power was achieved through cruelty and calculated tactics. A popular conspiracy theory stated that she killed her own baby girl and blamed it on Gaozong, an empress, so that the empress would be demoted. Even so driven with power that when her eldest son was the crown prince and became the crown prince, began to assert his authority and advocate policies, he suddenly died in 675, and many suspected he was poisoned by his own mother. His next heir and kin kept a low profile, or tried to, but then Empress Wu accused him of plotting of a rebellion and was later on banished, which was going to kick her in the butt later, as eventually a palace coup took place and forced Empress Wu to yield her position, and so the next day, her son Zongzong was restored to the power and the Tang dynasty was formally restored. Still considered the golden era, the Tang dynasty thrived as a high point in Chinese civilization and a golden age of cosmopolitan culture, and with the trades and the land trades alongside the Silk Roads, maritime trades by sea, the Tang was able to acquire and gain many technologies and cultural practices and rare luxury items. And it was all thanks to the decision of getting rid of one power-obsessed empress. When it came to Queen Tamar of Georgia, or also known as Tamar the Great, she reigned from 1184 to 1213, as she is also known as the Saint of the Georgian Orthodox Church, as she had appeared for her work in creating the Golden Age of Georgia. Together with her father, King George III, ruled the land until his death, and she ascended to the throne after defeating the nobles who dared to question the reign of a woman, and Tamar then killed all the clerics who questioned her and also replaced them with obscene lawyers that only aligned with her politically. She then married Russian Prince Yuri, who was an excellent military commander and helped her expand the Georgian territory, but unfortunately for Prince Yuri, he was not loyal. He was a big womanizer. Anytime he did excursions, he went off to expeditions, and the land wasn't the only thing he was expediting. So Tamar found out and she banished him for breaking her trust and her heart. I mean, he did what he was set out to do, but you know, these princes ain't loyal. Elizabeth Bathory was a Hungarian noblewoman and alleged serial killer from the family of Bathory, who owned the land in the Kingdom of Hungary. Bathory and 4 of her servants were accused of tormenting and killing hundreds of young and old women between 1590 and 1610. During her arrest, it is commonly believed that Bathory was caught in the act of torment, and she was having dinner at the time. Most of the witnesses testified that they heard the accusations from others, but did not see it themselves. The servants confessed under torment, which is not credible in contemporary proceedings. See, the accusations of killings were based on rumors, and several authors have argued that Elizabeth Bathory was a victim of conspiracy. Similarly, during the Salem witch trials, many people insisted that they saw accused witches of flying through the sky, and clearly neither things happened and are possibly formed of mass delusion or self-interest lies. Historians are therefore extremely careful in how they treat the eyewitness account of this sort of given possibility and collective in reinforcing the delusions of Elizabeth of Bathory. And when it came to Laura Bullion, also known as the Rose of the Wild Bunch, was a female outlaw who ruled the association with the Wild Bunch Gang, a notorious group of American outlaws led by Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid during the late 19th and early 20th century. Laura Bullion was born in Knickerbocker, Texas in 1876, and her family moved to the mining town of Moab, Utah, where she grew up. Laura became acquainted with the members of the Wild Bunch, including Butch Cassidy, the Sundance Kid, and another bunch of notorious outlaws. She developed a romantic relationship with Kid Curry, a member of the gang, and Laura Bullion participated in various criminal activities with the Wild Bunch, including train and bank robberies. She was known for her sharp shooting skills and her involvement with the gang's illegal enterprises, and in 1901, Laura was arrested in St. Louis, Missouri with her involvement with a train robbery. Although she ruled the Wild West with a pistol and a keen eye for targets, she eventually was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but she only served for 3. After her release from prison, Laura Bullion decided to lead a more law-abiding life, where she lived in the assumed name in Memphis, Tennessee, working as a housekeeper. Laura Bullion then passed away in December 2nd, 1961 in Memphis, Tennessee at the age of 85, and her death went largely unnoticed by the public. When it came to Empress of Julia of Agrippina, she was one for the list as one of the most terrible mothers, as unnecessary rulers who ruled under the guise of power by using their child. Yes, Empress Julia Agrippina of Rome regularly tried to overthrow her son. Agrippina the Younger was an ambitious person as far as the Roman rulers go, and she was once the first Roman empress. Although she spent much of her early years trying to dispose her predecessors, she truly believed that she and her son had the birthright claim to the empire, and manipulated her uncle Claudius into changing Roman laws about familial marriage so that the two could wed. Claudius' demise had been surrounded by mystery, and some sources claim Agrippina killed him. Together with her son Nero, she ruled Rome from 49 to 54 CE. Eventually, Nero grew tired of her manipulations and forced her out of power. She attempted to organize political opponents against her son, and he himself had her expelled. Jiang Qing, Lady of China, also known as the Mother of Communism, also known as the Madame Mao, the Chinese Communist revolutionary and actress and major political figure, was the 4th wife of Mao Zedong. She ruled as one of the architects and members of the Band of Four at the top of the Communist Party, and oversaw the destruction of China's ancient culture, art, literature, and agriculture. And although some might see that maybe some of their actions were misled, I'm talking about the villages and tribes spread out throughout China that didn't have a choice in associating with the communist regime. Mao's government had led to the famine and death of over 500,000 people, although it might be noted even more, and Jiang's was accused of fomenting the widespread civil unrest that had gripped China during the Cultural Revolution, but she refused to confess her guilt. Instead, she denounced the court and the country's leaders, and she received a suspended death sentence, but in 1983 it was commuted to life imprisonment. In the end, though, at the age of 77, she took her own life in the bathroom of a hospital, leaving a note. Queen Isabella of the First of Spain is definitely on this list, as she was problematic like most of the one-minded sided individuals who have nothing better to do but to be exclusive and ignorant. And yes, I get she was a ruler of Spain that allowed the land to flourish in its riches and benefits, but who was it benefiting? Queen Isabella co-ruled Spain with King Ferdinand II from 1451 through 1504. During her reign, she marked by oppression. Called Isabella the Catholic, she and her husband instituted the Spanish Inquisition in 1478 to achieve religious unity by punishing non-Christians, doubters, and heretics. In 1492, the notorious Spanish Inquisition, began her rule as she instrumented the efforts to expel Spanish Jews and Muslims from the kingdom. In 1492, the same year, she sponsored and led to Columbus' fateful journey as she decreed that all Jewish citizens either convert to Catholicism or be banished from the country. Jews from all around the country were brought to the Spanish court to either pledge their faith to the Catholic Church or be expelled on the spot. As for Columbus, as soon as he discovered the New World and immediately started slaying and enslaving people in Isabella's name, his expeditions to the New World directly led to the eradication of the Arawak people and the ends of millions of other native peoples around the world. A dark legacy that was following both him and Isabella to this day. I mean, colonizers do be colonizing, and that's still happening today as it was part of history. And speaking of history, that's all for today. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. My name is Jess, and I wish you all the best. Bye.